Yeah, 100%. And one other thing that I wanted us to react to a little bit, obviously the defensive side of the ball has been lights out. We saw Kyle Van Noy have two sacks. One was a strip sack. Matabike also another sack in a row. What was that? Five games in a row with a sack. He's got six and a half on the season.
I mean, just everyone in this defense is playing out of their mind.
Unbelievable. But Kyle Van Noy was on Pat McAfee show talking about the offense actually and Lamar Jackson's leadership. Take a listen.
Feels like one of the coolest dudes of all time. And now that you're there for 7 weeks, is that your belief as well?
LJ's cool as shit, man. I like LJ a lot. He's just been a real one. He's like who you want as a leader and the quarterback. Doesn't say too much, but he's really an amazing person and so fun to hang and chill with and crack jokes with. LJ's been great, and honestly, he's an awesome leader too. I don't think he gets enough credit of how good of a leader he is, and it doesn't always have to be the rah-rah speeches. It's his work and his work ethic, like in practice. He's very diligent. He always wants to do things the right way, and it's really infectious on the offense. I hope that's a word for the offense. And, he really is the leader of that offensive side. He just does it differently than you may seem as, the older school quarterbacks where they're rah-rah, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, you're a sackist. That's what your profession is, not an Englishian. So whenever you say infectious, it is not a problem at all on this particular program. But that doesn't get said much about him, how he's like a perfectionist and how it's like, because I got a chance to watch Peyton work and we're restarting if things aren't going well. Sounds like Lamar has that same type of thing, which is also not only leadership, but like accountability and understanding that he can do that and choosing to do that is a big deal. Never gets talked about with Lamar.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely a perfectionist, and you're totally right. He wants to get things right and do it at a high speed. And I've been really impressed to see him work and be able to work with a guy like that he just has this aura about him that is just awesome. It's just fun to be around and chill with them and be part of the gang. And, I'm excited for him. But, Pat, I'm not I'm just a golfer analyst that plays football.
All right. So, basically what the clip was highlighting was that, Lamar is shown a lot of leadership. And really the one thing that I thought was that continued to get hammered home was that he's a perfectionist. And as that clip was playing, it kind of blew my mind to think about how the Ravens have the number one defense in the league and then potentially have yet another unanimous MVP on the other side of the ball.
No, I mean, it just shows the craziness. And I think shows why, like you've hit on, why you need to appreciate the 2023 Ravens, because we saw the offense do this in 2019, and we're starting to see we got the offensive show in 2019. But unlike 2019, this team is so complete on every side of the football. And it's no longer like in 2019 where, yeah, we could put up 35 points in the blink of an eye, but then we got to the playoffs and the defense was sort of struggling. And when the defense was struggling, the offense was sputtering and nothing seemed to help the other. Now with this team, it feels like every drive the offense helps the defense eat clock. If they don't get a touchdown, they're pinning the opposing team, which one thing, punters deserve love. Jordan Stout is a stud. That man, I swear, every punt this man kicks, punts, every punt he punts, goes, they're sitting in the 10-yard line. And with this defense, that is as valuable as you can get. If you have a punter that's shanking the ball every time and putting them on the 30, the 40, this defense, gives up 20 yards, they're still giving up a field goal attempt. When you have this defense and you're pinning people back against the 3, against the 2, now the defense stops them, the offense has a short field come this way. And that's where I really see the biggest difference in this Ravens team is they all feed off each other. And it's just one continuous unit that's how you one after the other, and then you look up and you're like, holy crap, we just beat the Seahawks 37-3.
I'll say props to Eric DaCosta for making the moves necessary, not in the offseason, but right up until the season and during the season.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Ravens, the number one question last year was the receiving core. Okay, figure it out. They have the receivers they need or they want this season. The receivers haven't been bad. I don't think Lamar's spreading the ball around. So the guys aren't going to have eye-popping numbers, eye-popping stats, but he's spreading the ball around. And one game aside where they're dropping all those passes that leads to a loss, they've been pretty solid. But to bring in Kyle Van Noy, to bring in Jadeveon Clowney, and to keep those guys, to keep a guy like Geno Stone here, they decided not to tender him, but they signed him to that one-year deal. Those are moves that maybe get overlooked in the offseason because you look at the draft and you're thinking, all right, need this big name guy. We need this Odell Beckham Jr. But the Kyle Van Noy signing was fantastic. The Jadeveon Clowney signing was fantastic. And those guys are producing at such a high level. And Kyle Van Noy was so funny. He had like one of the funniest press conferences I've ever seen. He was like, what training camp? Like basically like we don't need it. Like we come in here, we do our job and we're ready to grind. So like props to EDC for getting those contracts and getting those guys here. I know Ravens Flock was really beating the drum for both of those guys to come in here, and he's gotten it done. I mean, he's done a fantastic job. But the Ravens defense, Mike McDonald's unit, they are producing at such a high level. And for fans, this is Ravens football. This is the Ravens football that you're used to seeing.
Oh, yeah.
Might not necessarily be a high-powered offense all the time, but it has. I mean, the offense is scoring at such a high clip, but the defense to dominate their opponents, to make them just fear them week in and week out, because offensive coordinators are going to be having nightmares trying to deal with this team from here on out because they're only going to get better as the season goes on.
Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah, I was just thinking about like the turning point for me in that game, and I wrote it down. I was like things that I really hate, like Lamar Jackson strip fumbles, or sack fumbles, like that sucked. The whole Seahawks D in our end zone doing the flock. I was like, in Baltimore, that's probably not the right move. And then the D comes out, responds, and
that was game.
This is our team.
Yeah,
and it bleeds leadership. And like you said, these pieces that we're getting, like everyone knows the Ravens is a good organization, but 10 years ago, if you had a Kyle Van Noy come to Baltimore from a New England, he's typically like getting a paycheck, going to a place where, all right, like might finish my career here or whatever. But missing New England, like he's getting, like Baltimore feels like they're replacing that with the level of coaching that we have. I mean, we have the best defense coordinator in the league. Yeah, like no doubt.
Yep.
Guy's 34 years old and he's dialing up plays. I remember this one play, they put someone in motion. We blitzed off the edge and it's just like blew this play up. It's like these guys are
flying.
They're just like flying around. They're working together, and you'd hate to say that one interview with a Roquan Smith and Ray Lewis talking about communication is like what we needed, but these guys are actually doing the things that these old Ravens are doing.
Yeah.
Clearly there's a line of communication there happening.
Yep.
And man, it feels like the old early 2000s Ravens that I mean they're coming off the field and like they're running the game. Like they're coming off the field like hyped. Like and then we're not putting Kyle Buller out there.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Big thing. This ain't 2006 no more.
We're putting Lamar Jackson out there, and like you said, like we've had the pieces at wide receiver. Mark Andrews, stud, but we're working together now as a unit, and it's fun to see Zay Flowers get in space. It's fun to see Odell get involved. Whether he's fumble the ball or not. Like people want to see the ball flying around the field, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Rocco, you talked about a lot of people giving EDC, props and credit. Another guy that didn't even wait until the locker room to do it. I'll share this right now. This is right after the Keaton Mitchell, his 60-yard run. So Lamar Jackson was no longer in the game. And in this, Lamar finds Eric DaCosta on the sideline and tells him how much he appreciates him finding Keaton Mitchell. So it's moments like that really kind of really put into perspective how special this team is. And moments like this where when do you see a quarterback find the general manager on the sideline during a game and go, hey, that was a hell of a signing. Like, way to find that. Like, that's where I see this team. And I'm like, yeah, everyone is firing on all cylinders, top to bottom.
This guy has to be out for executive of the year.
Has to.
He's got to be this year. Signing Lamar to a record contract at the time, doing what he's doing, like filling holes that this team needs. When players go down, it's like, all right, who do we got out there?
Yeah.
Who's on the tail end of their careers? It's not about the guys that are on the tail ends of their careers. It's like, who can we bring in and who's the best fit and who wants to play for us? And I think that's who they're finding, the perfect fits, plugging and play. You know, like, does this guy fit what it means to be a Raven first and foremost? Can they play football? Are they still talented? And like, they're checking all the boxes with these guys because like Jadeveon Clowney in Cleveland, he was like an afterthought. It was like, this dude was the former #1 overall pick, one of the most dominant college football players at the time on the defensive side of the ball that we had ever seen. I mean, that play against Michigan where he popped that guy's helmet off and then recovered the fumble with one hand, it's one of the greatest college football plays ever. But to see Clowney now kind of revive his career in Baltimore, because it was kind of a downward spiral, or it was trending downwards in Cleveland. It could have been a product of his own environment, though, in Cleveland, though. You get to Baltimore, you're around winning football, a winning mentality. I mean, the juices are flowing for all these guys right now, and it's really cool to see.
The crazy part is that the Ravens haven't bet the farm on any of these guys. You know, like you saw with the Rams, right? Where the Rams just went all in on everything and then screw the rest, screw with the next 10
they
years.
Said screw the picks, right?
Right.
Les Snead, their GM, was wearing a shirt that said like F the picks or something
F
like that.
them picks.
That's what I'm saying. And so like, it's kind of like crazy good too, to be like, holy shit, like this could be a Super Bowl team. And then we could still be contending next year. Yeah. I don't think there's any way we keep this entire roster next year just because there's so many big names and so much talent on this team to really think that we could keep them all. But man, like, it is definitely not a situation in which you're like, well, I hope we win this year because next year we're screwed.
Yeah, and I'll close with this and we'll wrap up and move on. So for a team to be good, and this is any sport, but we'll specifically here with football, you need other pieces that you were not expecting to come together and make plays. Keaton Mitchell for him, but so we're talked about. The Ravens didn't make a trade for a running back. You lose J.K. Dobbins, obviously, early in the season. Gus Edwards has played extremely well. Justice Hill has done his role, has done his part. And now you have Keaton Mitchell now that looks like he could be that little more of a boost for this offense. And this running game looks completely different. That's number one. Then you look on defense. You add the Van Noy. You had Clowney. Geno Stone has stepped up in big spots. When we went into the season, those guys were not on anyone's bingo card again. Like, these were, again, afterthoughts. And then Justin Madubuike has become a superstar in the league right now.
He's a dog, yeah.
Let's not forget about Michael Pierce as well.
And people forgot about how dominant he can be when he was healthy because of his injury-plagued season last year. But what you're seeing is everyone's just thinking, well, the Ravens, well, you have Roquan. It's Lamar, Roquan, Marcus Williams, Patrick Queen's playing better. But then you forget about it's the whole product of what you have. And the Ravens are having so many players step up. It's not just one or two or three guys.
Yeah.
And that's what's making them so dominant, is that their deficiencies are no longer there like other teams. Like, there's no glaring holes. Credit to coaching, but credit to those guys at playing at such a fine level. And you brought it up, Parker, with the defense just looks like they're firing. And they look fluid. Yeah. They look like they understand each other to a T.
I've been on this pod for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. We haven't even brought up Marlon Humphrey's name on the defense.
Right.
Like that,
when corners are playing well, you don't hear about them.
It's
And that's the
crazy.
definition of Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, we hear about Geno Stone. He's grabbing the ball, but like
Dog.
Like, we're talking about Marlon Humphrey, who's been a staple on our defense, and like, we're not even talking about him because
He's a dog.
He's dogging it.
Fellas, here's what spoke volumes to me watching the game and seeing it on the, from the press box on the sideline. It's you talk about all the plays they did make. Play they didn't make when Kyle Hamilton, he dropped what would have been an interception. He went over to the sideline and he started doing push-ups.
Yeah.
I thought that was, first of all, hilarious, but it's like, that's the mentality. And Kyle Van Noy afterwards, he was like, he should have done push-ups. Like, these guys care. They're so dialed in and they want to hold each other accountable and get the job done. So something as little or as funny as that, when it's, it looks like a joke, but that's really how these guys think and how they operate. And they are so focused on one goal and one goal only. And that's winning a Super Bowl this season. If they don't win a Super Bowl, this team will feel like they fell short.